Hello, everybody. Welcome to First Church of Religious Science here in New York City. Welcome to our large Zoom call. If you've joined us for the first time, this is our Louise self-healing gathering that we have every single Thursday night. This is perhaps the longest running self-healing class we know of anywhere in the country. This evening, our topic is stepping into the new chapter together. Again, stepping into the new chapter together. Whether you're with us live on Zoom, as so many of you are, or whether you're tuning in on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, however you're connecting with us, we're thrilled to have you part of us and be part of our community. We get all your wonderful comments, suggestions, and thank you for all that you're doing and your support. For those of you who are here for the first time, Louise Hay was not only a world-renowned author and healer, but she was a beloved member and student here at First Church. Her teachings, her affirmations, her work on self-healing and empowerment, transformation in general, are the foundation of everything we do here. Louise was a student of the science of mind. She was a student of Ernest Holmes, Raymond Charles Barker. All of our gatherings are offered at no charge. If you feel inspired through our messages to support our work, we have support options in the chat rooms. You'll see them, and also on our social media. If you like what we do, please share our recordings with your friends. Again, they're available for rebroadcast 24 hours a day on YouTube, Facebook, and other places. I'm having a tough time keeping track of them all. We're building a vibrant community of healing and growth, and we offer all of our gatherings, again, at no charge. Again, any contribution is appreciated because we have a large outreach now. We trust that we're supplied and supported. So everyone, if you can do something, then do something. We're most grateful. So as we begin tonight's lesson entitled Step into Your New Chapter, and you think about it, we're always telling you the point of power is in where? It's in the present moment. So this evening we're talking about stepping into your new chapter because you're always writing the story. I guess I'm giving it away already. I want to acknowledge something that might resonate deeply within many of you. Many of you, I grew up in a traditional family. Some of you grew up in more dogmatic religious environments than others. Some were taught that you had to live up to specific standards to be good enough. And when I was a kid, I knew what a mortal sin was. I knew what a venial sin was. I knew a lot of things about sinning when I was a kid because I went to school from the first grade through the eighth, at least, where the nuns were teaching me. And everybody got taught different things by different people. So in those teachings, at least when I experienced, we were somehow made to feel like we had to fit into, a certain type of behavior, what's right, what's wrong, moral frameworks sometimes, and it could leave you feeling like there was something wrong with you. It could leave you feel like you're unworthy, that you're bad, you're flawed, and any of those things. These kind of feelings of guilt and shame often follow us right into adulthood. What goes on as children, the messaging we get, because we're like little sponges when we're children, little beings of light and wonder. Well, all of that messaging, however it comes, wherever it comes, and whoever imparted it, it carries with us. So even if religion wasn't part of your upbringing, if you didn't have a lot of the things I had, feelings of inadequacy may have come from other places. As I said, family environments without any religious influence can still impose rigid standards, where your parents might have used that word should a lot, right? The families can impose religious standards about what success looks like, about how you should be, how men should be, or women should be, what you ought to have, where you ought to be in your life, how you're supposed to act. See, these are rigid, commanding words I'm using deliberately. And in these family systems, we learn what's acceptable behavior, what's not acceptable. And sometimes the messengers are pretty rough on us. And the thing is, a young child's going to internalize all these messages, and they can leave us feeling like we're always striving. We're never good enough. We're always striving to be better, to meet somebody's approval, but we never quite get there. And maybe when you were younger, uh, you were trying to live up maybe to your mom's or your dad's expectations, your grandmother's or someone's, your your father's, your grandparents, and maybe you didn't get the approval from them that you needed, or maybe you didn't get it often enough. And for some of you, I know because I've been there, some of you are still seeking approval. And it doesn't, you could be seeking approval when you're 28 or 48 or 58. You're looking for approval, some of us, some people, looking for approval from someone, could be a significant other, a boss, a friend. And when we're doing that as religious science students, we understand we're looking for approval from this person, that person, or this group of people. And I'm here to tell you from a metaphysical spiritual approach, it's a mistake. Because in our teaching, we understand that we live, we move, we have our being in this creative activity, this divine activity. And Louise would say, what we're looking for is self-acceptance and self-approval. Louise would say we're looking for self-acceptance and self-approval in the now, in this moment. So we're always really wanting to bring it back to ourselves. And most people don't bring it back to themselves. Most people are looking for the nod from a person over here, over there. And, you're looking outside of yourself for the very thing that it's yours to do. We're all here to grow and grow up and learn. And I'm probably getting ahead of myself in the lesson, but ultimately that's our responsibility. So if any of this resonates with you, please listen on. Maybe you're still seeking approval, maybe not as much as you used to, but maybe you still do it to some degree, looking for a nod or an approval from someone outside yourself. This evening, this gathering, I'm here to remind you of these things and to invite you to release all of that outdated stuff, those old beliefs that you need any of that from anyone else. We want to release the need for approval. Our title, again, is Stepping into a New Chapter where you're loving yourself. You're really loving yourself, and you're happy to share your love, but you're not looking for approval. You really don't need approval. You're the author of your own experience, right? So we're all writing our own story, chapter by chapter. And as one of my favorite judges used to say, the final chapter has not been written. So we have plenty of time. And if you've discovered this teaching, you're in a very good place, because this teaching will empower you to take control of your narrative, to write your script, to hitch your wagon to the stars. It will really help you learn to soar. So in this new chapter, armed with all this information, we understand that we are not defined by our past. We are empowered by the possibility, but see, we're empowered by the possibility of what's coming next. Because what's coming next, you have a lot of control over. Holmes would say, change your thinking and change your life. So we have control over what we think. Maybe you were told that success was all about achieving something way back when. To be valuable, possibly, you had to excel. You had to get through high school at least. And then some of our families said, well, you have to go to college and you have to find a profession. Or maybe you're told you had to go to graduate school. You could have been told a lot of things. And I'm sure you were, because as many people as there are, these family systems are very different. But they do impart on a child pretty heavy burdens. Maybe it was suggested you needed to be the top of your class, or top half, or top third, or maybe you grew up in a business family or something where you were told you need to make a certain amount of money, you need to do this kind of occupation, you were meant to be such and such in terms of what you're going to do for work. In other homes or other families, they might value the idea of owning your own home or your own apartment. And these are ladders or markers in some families for arriving, right? And here's the thing. If you fall short of any of these old ideas, even in small ways, any of these feelings of not measuring up, or what you're doing, what you're doing with your children, the way you're parenting, the way any of this stuff, uh, where you find yourself falling up short, not measuring up, uh, you know, if you grew up in these families, you got this programming, it creeps in. I gave you all these examples because Louise Hay said the bottom line for everybody. And she meant people had every kind of problem, but she would say the bottom line with everybody is in some ways they don't feel like they're doing enough. They don't feel like they're good enough parents. They don't feel like they're good enough people. They find the things that they've done unforgivable. So here's the thing, most of us are unmerciful in the sense that we do a number on ourselves. We really do a number on ourselves. Those messages that were given us were given to us long ago, many, many, many years ago. And it's really time for us to reparent ourselves, to love ourselves enough to challenge those beliefs, every single one of them. Perhaps you grew up in an environment where you were constantly compared to your sister or brother. I know that happened in my family a lot, especially because I had three sisters and I saw it all the time. Um, they did it with me too, but not as much because I was over here. But uh, you could have grew up in a family where you're being compared negatively to one of your siblings. Maybe you were told, why can't you be more like your brother? Or your sister is the talented one. Or worse, they would say, this sister is the pretty one. Can you imagine how the other two felt? One was hearing stuff like that. Or hearing from a parent, you'll never measure up to her. That could be your mother, your sister, or somebody else. These kinds of comparisons can leave deep scars and a sense of always being second best. Maybe a parent told you outright that you're never going to amount to anything. Now, you can imagine that would happen when a parent was very upset. But still, those kind of remarks, boy, they do a number on them. I remember, I've shared this many times before. I never was much of a singer, I can tell you that. But in seventh grade, guys' voices are changing and stuff, young kids. And there was a music teacher saying, "You should never sing." And I thought about that through all these years. That's a terrible thing to say to a young child. Um, but worse in a family system where all that stuff comes in. That's the stuff that drives people to therapist couches years later. So here's the thing. We have this teaching, and this teaching tells us again, the point of power is always in the present moment, and we get to tell ourselves the truth, first of all, that we're whole, we're complete, we're an individualization of God life, and the sky is the limit. There's really nothing that's holding us back except for those voices inside of our head. There's a song, listen, that it's entitled "Children Will Listen." I think it was a Broadway song. I remember Streisand singing it years ago. And it's an interesting song. I don't know if it's a beautiful song, but it's interesting. The point in the song is children will pick up just about everything and anything. You don't think they're hearing you, but they're listening behind the walls. They're listening upstairs, and they listen to you, and they pick up on just about everything that goes on in their environment. Um, Comments like "You'll never be as successful as your father," or "You're going to be just like him." um, they impact a child. Uh, if you grew up in a family that wasn't terribly sophisticated, and they might say to a child that you are a loser, any of this type of commentary can create a deep-seated belief that you're not capable of achieving your life goals, your dreams. When people are trying to tell you what you're gonna be as an adult, then you're feeling wrong for having feelings or other thoughts than your own. Uh, any of this type of thing can cause a situation where you feel as though you're not capable of achieving your dreams or any dreams you have. You feel guilty about them. Many people spend their entire lives trying to overcome the messages from their youth, from their past. And then the whole other thing is when we've made mistakes, then we're carrying around all this guilt from the mistakes we've made. It. In this class, we're always trying to well, first of all, we show you, we give illustrations so you can identify, and then you can begin to release them. Because if you haven't dealt with them, a lot of them are still with you. They're buried beneath you. You don't think of them often, but they're always operating beneath the surface. It's important to remember in terms of this messaging, none of this was with you when you came into this world. You were not born with all this stuff. Louise Hay in her book would describe how we came in as these wonderful beings of light and wonder. And the whole world was responding to us when we cried or when we laughed. The adults are all acting like children around us because they attend to us when we're unhappy. They're thrilled. They're happy, smiling with us when we're laughing. So we didn't come in with any of this stuff, but we acquired it, most of us. We came into the world innocent, beautiful, full of life, full of wonder, ready to explore everything, unburdened by guilt or shame. So all this stuff, this negative stuff that I described this evening, was passed down through messaging and the environments, the family environment primarily, sometimes the schools, sometimes our aunts, grandparents. It was passed down to us, and it's the stuff that we grew up with. And this evening, as we get into this lesson, and as we get into the Louise Hay's teachings, once again, we explore how to release these learned beliefs and rediscover the truth of who we really are. The truth of who we are is we're whole, we're worthy, and we're full of potential. Tonight, as we step into our new chapter, we're going to dive deep into something that holds many of us back. Those old feelings of guilt and shame that keep us stuck in the past. Many of us at different times, so many of us in our lives have struggled with the weight of these emotions. Guilt, shame, and the feeling of not being enough can linger, sometimes for years and even decades. Sometimes people take them with them to their grave. So it stays with us, silently shaping the way we see ourselves and our worldview. And often we don't even realize how much these feelings, these thoughts are holding us back from living the life that we really deserve. Many of us have been told, as I said before, that you're not good enough, and you've taken it on, and you don't feel adequate, or you don't feel good enough. And you start comparing yourself to others, and it gets worse and worse. We carry it from family, from society, from the relationships that we had that didn't work out as we had hoped. Maybe you've heard from someone, you're never going to amount to anything. Or why can't you, again, be more like your sibling, your mother, your father, or someone else? These messages plant seeds of self-doubt, and they grow into deep-rooted beliefs about our self-worth. So we're really always addressing that in one way or another. Even if you didn't grow up in a particularly rigid environment, these feelings can still sneak in from life itself. It can happen through failed relationships, career setbacks, or choices that we deeply regret. And these moments have a tendency to stay with us until we deal with them. And without realizing it, they become part of the story we tell ourselves. And here's the thing about consciousness. When I tell you week after week, explain that your consciousness is being reflected in your life. Your consciousness is the sum total of your knowing. It's your conscious thinking. It's the suppressed stuff. So our consciousness, if we've really been doing some work on ourselves, we notice a lot of serendipitous, beautiful things going on. If we've been in the business of trading in the lesser ideas for the greater, if we've been doing this work, then you're going to realize more and more that you're a spiritual being and you're walking in a world of spirituality, and every encounter is a holy encounter. But if your consciousness is still filled with all of this negativity, it's part of sometimes we play with the word BS, our belief system. If all of that negativity is still within us, then what this class will help you with is it'll help you step into a new chapter. Really it'll help you just begin working on canceling the negatives and replacing them. We work on, once you identify it, it's like you're striking gold, and then you can begin to work on neutralizing it and replacing it. Because if you have that in you now, say you're in your middle years, and and all of us have some of it, right? It's really pays big dividends to work with the affirmations and change the lesser idea that you might be harboring for the greater. And that's really the work. It's as simple as that, but it's as difficult as that. We keep at it. Practitioners practice. So Your consciousness, again, is being mirrored in your world. And we're always working with the idea of consciousness, waking up to how great we are. So if you're still doing, I'm not good enough, or I should have done more, I remember one of my aunts before she passed away. It was very late in her life, a couple of years before she made her transition. And she was blind. And I remember going into a room where she was there. She really she didn't know who was there with her. And I was there with a couple of my siblings, and she was having regrets. And I remember saying, I should have called them more often. I should have done this. I should have done that. And she was a pretty rough person, as I remember. Um, and she had a lot of regrets. And here's the thing about this teaching: none of us want to live that way, I don't think. None of us want to live with a lot of regrets. Our teaching would say many things. Forgive early, late, and often. It's just like doing affirmative prayer. Do it. Keep doing it. Practice your affirmations. We have a teaching that would say that this spirit, this energy is everywhere present. So we wake up to the idea that this is one power. It's in you. It's operating through you. It's in everything and everyone. And we want to keep remembering that. We want to keep practicing that awareness of the presence. As you do this, you'll be stepping into a new chapter. Tonight's title. The new chapter is you'll have spiritual awareness. So I'm telling you how it happens. I'm going to tell you it happened in the early years where you acquired it. And it's probably been reinforced through the years. I'm talking about the negativity and all the things that we really want to actively release and replace. We want to replace any of the negative with the truth. So any ideas I'm not good enough, I should have done more, all that stuff, we want to gently and lovingly release. Tonight, let's challenge that story. These feelings of unworthiness, I'm here to say, is not the truth of you. It's not the truth of who you are. You're worthy. Your value has been established from the very beginning. But it's something that you've learned along the way that you're telling yourself that you're not okay. Louise always said, we're born whole. We're born whole. We're born beautiful. We're born complete. We're born as perfect beings. And somewhere along the way, we forget that truth. We start to believe false stories, like stay away from me, get behind me. Yeah, it was, I think it was Emma Curtis Hopkins, one of the old time New Thought teachers who used to say, get behind me, Satan. We don't talk that way anymore. But that's what that stuff is. These are false stories where anyone's ever told you any of that stuff. It's like, stop it. Stop in the name of love, right? Stop listening to that stuff and anyone who tells you anything like it, because those stories limit our potential to the extent we think they're true or we say it to ourselves. So if you find yourself being critical of yourself, here, I'll tell you, like I always tell you, never, never, never criticize yourself. Soon as you see yourself doing it, stop. Find a way to interrupt that conversation, neutralize it, replace it with something that's true. This is where your new chapter begins. Your new chapter begins where you become more aware of your inner dialogue. Every Thursday, the question is, what has it been like being you? It's because for the past 25 years, I've been asking people to pay attention to what you're thinking. If you're doing a negative number on yourself, stop. Just stop. Don't analyze it. Just stop and replace it. Replace it. There's plenty of time to figure it out, but get in the practice of neutralizing the negatives. You don't have to carry that old stuff, those old beliefs, into the next stage of your life. Just because you've made mistakes, you've heard said before, doesn't mean you are a mistake. I'll say it again. I know I say it often. Just because you've made mistakes doesn't mean you are one. You are one with the one. You are filled with power and ability. Ernest Holmes, our founder, author of the textbook, reminds us that we're all individual expressions of this one energy, this one great life. This energy flows through us and creates our experience. We live in it, we move in it, we have our being in it. And sometimes we forget that we have this power. We have this awesome power that we wield. Our word is our wand. Our consciousness creates our life. We forget often. Louise in one of her songbooks would say the words, remembering and forgetting It's the game that we play. So we forget often, that we're individuals filled with power and ability. So we have the power, this power within us that's far greater than any mistake we could ever make. We have power available that's greater than any regret or any limiting belief we have. So we're always much bigger than any of these stories that seem to hold us back. The beautiful truth is at any moment, we can plug in and we can reconnect to that power. Similar to the prodigal son story or child that I always talk about, which is you're established in the kingdom of good, the kingdom of consciousness, the kingdom of connection. We forget that we have it all. We're off in the weeds, so to speak. But as we remember, it's like this in the story of the parable, you wake up and you realize I've lived in better places. And in the story, metaphorically, the father rushes to meet the son. Well, as soon as we wake up and we remember that we're one with the one, we're restored. We know that we're whole. We know we're complete. We know we're supplied and supported. The first step always as we move forward in this teaching, as we look at ourselves, is to have great compassion for ourselves. Utilize self-forgiveness. What if you could let go of all the guilt, every last bit of it that you've been holding on to? What if you could let go of all the regrets? What if you could step into your new chapter this evening? What if you could step into your new chapter free from the belief that you aren't okay? Just free from any of it, all of it. What if you could step into your new chapter right now, free from that I'm not enough, free from any critical thought, and just step into your new chapter knowing I'm whole and I'm complete and all is well? What if you could do that? Let's take a moment to center ourselves. You might close your eyes for a moment. Take a breath, relax. Feel yourself more present. Let go of anything that happened today, earlier, any distractions you might have. Right now, just be here with yourself. Now, I'd like you to imagine that at the center of your being, there is this deep, infinite well of love. This well has always been there. It's always flowing. It never runs dry. As you breathe in, feel this well of love filling you inside, moving through your heart, your mind, and every part of your body. Now, as this love fills you, visualize it dissolving any feelings of guilt, any shame, or any unworthiness. Just breathe it in, this beautiful healing energy. Imagine those old beliefs melting away one by one and leaving you with peace and self-acceptance, leaving you with self-love and self-approval. As you sit with this, silently repeat to yourself, I am worthy of love. I am worthy of love. I forgive myself completely. I am enough just as I am. Breathe in these truths. Let them fill you, reminding yourself that you're enough. You've always, always been enough. You're more than enough. As we prepare to close this moment of self-reflection, I'm reminded of the powerful words of Ella Wheeler Wilcox in her poem, God and I, in Space Alone. She beautifully illustrates that we are never separate from this source, this divine activity. We are one with this divine activity. We're always connected to that power, that presence, that love, that life. Her poem speaks to the truth that we are co-creators with the divine, shaping our experience through our thoughts and our beliefs. Imagine, if you will, that this moment is your blank page. I'd like you all to visualize a blank page and know that this moment is your blank page. This is your new chapter. What if you could write the story that you've been telling yourself? And what if instead of guilt and regret, critical thoughts, what if your new chapter was filled with self-worth, love, peace, and praise? So tonight, as you step into your new chapter, know that the past does not define you. Know that you are more than your mistakes, more than your regrets, more than the guilt that you've been carrying. You are a powerful, creative being. You have the power to heal, the power to grow. You have the power to transform. This power has always been within you. So as we come forward together, let me remind you something Louise often would say. We are all doing the best that we can with the understanding that we have, right? With the information and the understanding that we have at any given moment. Understanding that's the truth for everybody. So there's no need to judge anyone anywhere. The key to healing, the key to stepping into this new chapter is self-forgiveness. So let's take a moment together to affirm the truth of who we are. I invite you to repeat after me a couple affirmations. I release guilt of any form and I embrace peace. You might repeat that. I release guilt in any form and I embrace peace. Next, I'm worthy of love and joy. Yes, I'm worthy of love and joy. I forgive myself and I allow myself to heal. I forgive myself and I allow myself to heal. So let's close this gathering today. Of course, we're going to have a time for personal sharing, but let's close the lesson portion with an affirmative prayer. And I'd like to do it in the first person so we can feel it personally. And here we go. There is one infinite power and love, and I recognize this power flowing through me now. I declare that I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of love and peace. And I now release all guilt, and I declare that I embrace my true nature as whole and complete. I forgive myself fully in the now, and I know that I am enough. I give thanks for this truth, and I trust the perfect unfolding in my life. And so it is. Thank you all. We're now going to move into our time of personal sharing. If you're new, please say hello. We'd like to welcome you. You might say, hello, I'm from Arizona. I'm from New Hampshire. I'm from New York. I invite you to reflect on the rhetorical questions we've asked tonight, we've explored, and what came up for you during this evening's topic and talk. How have you been observing yourself as you practice these teachings? This is a time to share your reflections on what it's been like being you recently as you're walking and practicing this path of self-healing and self-love. So now we turn the cameras over to you. Thank you all for being here.